Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. And this video is to bring you a closer look at the Knape Vogt, their part number BYP-60SW-2D-4. This is a bypass kit made of steel, what's called extra wide. The track is wider than standard. We're going to go over that in a moment. So this is a bypass kit like you'd see in a residential application. Quite typical, quite common. One nice thing about the Knape Vogt line is that it's really easy to understand the structure by which they build their part numbers. BYP, I'll give you one guess, stands for bypass. BIF, bifold, and their entire product line goes that way. The dash then 60, well, that's the weight. That's the weight capacity of a pair of carriers for your doors. So if you've got 60-pound doors or less, you're in the running. The S stands for steel. So you'd get a steel track versus an A for aluminum. The W will stand for wide, and that's not very common. So indeed, this is a, moving into the part number even further, indeed this is a 2D, 2-door, dash 4, 4-foot wide opening. So it's really great. You can just predict what part numbers will be based on what what you need. So now the BYP-60SW 2D4. Now there is a link below this video to a document called Product Catalog. There's also a link to this document called Installation Instructions. Installation instructions are included. Now the Product Catalog after lots of discussion with the factory, it was determined that the product catalog had some incorrect data, meaning they say that the door thickness is 1 3/8 to 1 3/4. These doors are really just for 1 3/8. These will not accommodate an 1 3/4 opening because the guide that you get is for 1 3/8 only. By the time you're seeing this video, that data might all be corrected, but as of November of 2017, that data still showed 1 3/4, which is not correct. Now, before we get into the installation instructions, which we will next, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up the sliding door catalog. The purpose of that will allow you to see the BYP kits in the 60-pound rating. When you get to that part of the catalog, you will be able to see, in the case of the BYP 60SW series, that you are left to work with the following sizes. You can do doors, you can do openings, I should say, up to 8 foot wide. You can do them 2-door for 4 foot, 2-door for 5 foot, 2-door for 6 foot, 2-door even for 8 foot, which would be pretty uncommon, or more commonly, 3-door for 8 foot. 2 in the front, 1 in the back. That's how that will work. Okay, now let's dive into the installation instructions. Page 1, and again it's included, is going to give you an overview of your contents, other than showing you the tools that you'll need. Forgive me. Let's go over the dimensional properties of this track. About 2 1/4 inch overall width. Overall height, about 1 inch. Okay. The profile of the track there, double J track, you might refer to this. You use your imagination, you can see why we would call it that. Now, let's go over the contents. We've got the track. Carrier with a B offset. That means Knape Vogt has different carriers. And the installation instructions are not exactly accurate for this. Let's study why that's the case. I beg your pardon, there is no problem with the installation instructions. I looked at the 4 carriers that were laying on my desk, and I thought that they were different offsets. Whereas you will have some tracks that will have a different relationship between the front of the track and the center of the first J, center line where the wheel would roll through, and then to accommodate a thicker door, given the spacing of the 2 J centers, you need a hanger with a greater offset. I thought there were 2 different offsets happening here. I was imagining that. Everything is good so far on the installation instructions, and let's review. You're going to have 4 of the B carriers. They're stamped B. The B is a reference to the offset of that, and this is appropriate for 1 3/8 doors. Now, at any time, if you want to know exactly what these parts are individually, you can open up that catalog that I referred to just earlier and get to that section where you'll have the BYP, the 6 DSWs, and scroll into that catalog and look at the individual pieces and those part numbers, meaning you can follow along by looking at that catalog as well, but you can also, down the road, let's say you need to order a carrier. Let's say an application or an instance occurs in your life where you're painting the doors 10 years from now, painter throws all the hardware away, not thinking, or painter took the hardware off the doors to paint everything, cleaning crew threw the hangers away. You need just the hangers? No problem. Not only can you buy only the hangers, but that data is clearly published in the manufacturer's parts diagram. Now, moving forward in the installation instructions, we've got the track, we've got the 4 carriers, and again, those are the B type, which is appropriate for what you're installing in terms of door thickness. You've got 2 poles, which are finger poles. Use your imagination, you can see why they're called finger poles. Chrome type color. You'll get 1 fixed floor guide. 1 3/8 doors only is what these are prepped for. Overall height of the guide, about 1 5/16. Overall width, about 15/16. Overall length, and we're going to go back and take the other dimensional properties. About 4 3/4 length. You're going to get a couple of screws for installing that guide. They'll be in the master screw pack, which is parts E, F, G. Master screw pack. You're going to get the door stop, and this will mount to the inside face of the outer door, so that if one door is open, the inner door, you can take that outer door and push them both back to where they'll stop. And that installation is called out yeah, it's on page 2, and it will be on the outer edge of the. You'll see the step 1, prepare opening. You'll see where it's indicated there, so that you've got the ability to move one door. Should one door be in the open position, you can move them both. Now back to the dimensional properties. Overall width of the base is about 1 3/8. The important part is the offset. Back side of the plate where the door would reside, we can eyeball the center line of that wheel right at about 3/4 inch. Okay. So roughly that's going to sit right in the center of your 1 3/8 door. Okay. The diameter of that wheel, a lot of people want to know the diameter of the wheel. I'd say about 15/16, 7/8. Overall height now, just in terms of an overall dimension, about 2 5/8. The snubber, well, this is not a snubber, forgive me, this is a stop. A snubber is something that installs into the track itself. That does indeed prevent a door from moving too far. That's your stop. Overall width of the base, about an inch and a quarter. Overall depth or width looks like it's about an inch and a quarter. Overall height about 15/16, I'd say. Okay. The finger pulls, usually a 1-inch hole is what's required. Outside is about 1 inch, so we're going to say probably closer to 7/8 maybe. Now in this case 3/4 inch is what I would drill for this. And we're going to test that in the installation instructions. Okay, we've gone over all of the parts, their dimensional properties. We have everything that the installation instructions indicate that we're supposed to. On page 1, we've covered all of page 1, except that you will need the basic tools, a couple of screwdrivers, drill, hacksaw to cut your track down. Moving to page 2, step 1, you can see an overview or a cross-section of what a standard installation is going to look like. And most importantly, what you're probably really looking for is the rough opening, meaning prepare the opening. What is the floor to the finished header, and what's the clear opening width? So the height is going to be your door height plus 2 1/16. That will allow for the margin at the bottom for the guide, and that will allow for all the thickness of the track. Conversely, if you have a fixed door height of 80 inch and you're going to make the opening match that, well, you're going to be at 82 1/16 would be your finished opening. Moving on to the width and looking at the width, you're talking about the back to the height, because you've got a range. You can go from 2 5/8 all the way to 2 1/16. Because, well, you can certainly control where you're going to install these on the back of your opening. Plus, you've got, you know, the door can sit down in here, or the door can sit down in here. So, what are you going to make yours? Whatever works best for your application within that range. Okay. I'd like as much of the door to be in the guide as possible, because maybe horsing around in the bedroom, someone falls into the door a little bit. The more door in the guide, my mind tells me the greater chance of not breaking the door guide, because you'll see that happen all the time. And we discussed earlier how to find replacement parts. Now the door width is dependent on a 2-door or 3-door system, but this is a 2-door system. Take your clear opening, we'll take your door width, multiply that by 2, and then deduct 1 inch. So this is a 4-foot long track. Let's say that you have two 24-inch doors, so your track's going to work out really well. That's 48 less 1 inch, that's 47, so you need to cut the track down. Why the deductive 1 inch? You've got two 2-foot doors, but bypass aren't installed this way. They're really installed this way, so they overlap in the center. 1/2 inch overlap either way is where that's coming from. That's really a total overlap of 1 inch from here to here, so that's where that's coming in. Could it be a little bit more? Sure. Could it be a little bit less? Sure. But 1 inch is the standard that you would use. Now that you've got your doors sized or your opening built, it's just literally as simple as getting the track installed, making sure certainly that it's level and completely secured and lateral, completely parallel to the header. Mount your hangers at the 1/2 inch from the end on your left side. Your right side is going to be 1 3/16, and that's going to account for the installation of the stop that we went over earlier, the little angle stop. It will also give you a guideline as to where to drill for the finger, the finger pull. They want a 20 millimeter hole. 1 divided by 25.4 times 20 is 0.78. We said 3/4 inch. Okay, 7/8 might be a better size because it's actually well, no, 3/4 would be good. 3/4 is 0.75. 20 millimeter is 0.79 roughly. So maybe 3/4, clean it out a little bit. That sort of concept with drilling that. You're able to, once you get the doors hung, moving to, the hangers go on, you literally tip the doors onto the J tracks, let them rest. Moving to step 5, you can see in the hanger where you have the ability to adjust that slightly. Okay. You'll put a screw there. You'll put a screw there. You can get your screwdriver in here and play with that to kick that door up a little bit should you need to, that sort of scenario. Then your door guide goes in last. And that completes the installation, quite frankly. Super easy, very much within the range of skill set of a typical homeowner with basic tools. Reviewing the installation instructions first, perhaps gleaning something out of this video, will give you, in my opinion, once you have the material, everything you need to do a proper installation. Now, back to that manufacturer's page below this video. From that page, you can pull up the sliding door catalog that we had mentioned earlier. Now, the reason that's important, I think, is if you are buying a kit like this, it's likely that at some point in the future you will have a need for either a replacement part for this or a new installation altogether. Having the ability to familiarize yourself with the Knape Vogt full-line catalog is crucial and worthwhile. The obvious reason is why it's crucial, but worthwhile is because it's an incredibly well-organized catalog, meaning there's different sections: bypass, BYP, BIF, PKT for pocket. Once you know the type of door that you're doing, simply flip to that section. Next question is, how heavy are the doors? Okay. Flip to that part of that section. Now you're dealing with right on what you're working with. Options in terms of type of track, aluminum or steel, other options that are available. Once you get to that exact section, you'll have 2 or 4 pages of that kit, the sizes and the doors it can handle, and then all of the parts listed both as a proper parts bag, somewhat like you see here, and then the individual pieces. So that's why it's beneficial to familiarize yourself with it, because it's an incredibly well organized and laid out resource. And that's why I appreciate Knape Vogt sliding door hardware. If you have any questions on the BYP-60SW-2D-4 steel kit, inch and 3/8 bypass doors, or any other Knape Vogt product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.